Hey yo. I've been thinking about the whole UAP, UFO phenomenon. I mean, you've got Congress and NASA and the Pentagon have admitted there's something out there. We don't know what the fuck that it is. So I just wanted to give my thoughts, I guess, on what's going on. At least try to reason and try to figure it out. And let's see what I can gather, and see if there's anybody out there that might concur or might have something to add. Um, so the first thing that I find very curious about the whole thing is that they're making their presence known. Um, that's a little worrying to me, and I'll explain to you why. When anybody tries to examine an animal in the wild, right? You want to have a hide. Um, let's say you're observing a thing of wildebeest. You know, you hide yourself and you observe them without disturbing them so you can see them in their natural state and, document and whatever. That's not what they're doing. They are being flagrant. You know, they are basically flying the helicopter, a couple of 100 feet over the herd to make them scatter. So it leads me to believe the fact that they're visiting us is they have emotions. I'm sure of it, 100%. They have emotions, um, and again, there's intent there as well, and I don't think it's a good intent, and I'll explain to you why. So again, we know they're up there. They have the technology to hide from us. They're just not using it. So that's kind of worrying as well. That's a statement. That's, like I said, you don't study a pack of wildebeest by flying a helicopter over them. That's what they're doing. So there's something else. There's a message they're sending us. And, I've got it. I understand it. And we're really fucked. And I'll tell you why I think that. The fact that they're curious about our military bases also worries me. I mean, what kind of thinking? I mean, if I'm an alien, to go down to the surface of this planet and just go to their nuclear silos and just turn off all their nukes, that's a statement. That's telling us, hey, when we come, don't fucking put up any resistance because we're gonna fucking flatten you. So I think an invasion's coming. I think that we're all gonna be screwed. I think that the analogy that I would give would be, if you that's listening to me right now was to go outside and find a pile of red ants, an ant hill, whip out your thing, and just piss on them. The ants wouldn't be happy about it. They wouldn't appreciate it, but there's absolutely nothing that they can do. Like, what could the ants do to you? And I think we're the ants. Because the thing is, they could just throw rocks at us. I mean, with their level of technology, I can think of thousands of ways, you know, to kill us. You know, they could just fry all our electrical system and watch us fucking blow ourselves up. Or they could, you know, instigate a war. You know, if they dropped a nuke on Russia or China or on the U.S., World War III. So there's just so many ways that they could wipe us out. They haven't wiped us out, which is interesting. But at the same time, they're not hiding from us. Even if they didn't have cloaking devices, the ability to go from space down to, let's say, 1,000 feet and then cruise, I mean, yeah, you'd be able to evade every fucking radar. And not to mention what? They don't have the technology to see where our radar, things are. You know, they, it just, they're being flagrant. They're flying in our airspace. They want to be seen, or they don't give a fuck about being seen. No, they want to be seen. They want to be seen. You wouldn't come down here and show. They're showing off. In other words, um, something interesting that the U.S. and all the other countries in the world do, which is they'll send their fighter craft into enemy airspace to see the response time of the enemy, to try to probe to see where, in other words, to kind of gather where the radar is You know, it's like, oh, okay, they intercepted us here, they intercepted us here. And you can kind of plot that and see, what your coverage is, if there's any holes or so. It's a probing attack. It's not even a probing attack. It's just a probe. You probe the enemy's defenses. You look at their response time. You see what they're going to do, and it just feels like that's what they're doing. I mean, they have come down, and again, we're the ants. There's nothing we can do. Like, I think that they're getting us ready for something that's going to happen. And like I said, we're the ants. There's nothing we can do. Nukes, yeah, they can turn them all off. Conventional, again, there's nothing we could do. Nothing. So that is kind of worrying. I mean, imagine if they threw a space rock at us. We wouldn't be able to stop the rock. Like, there's nothing we could do. And if they threw another, and another, and another, it's like, yeah, we're fucked. So that's my assessment. Um, Again, it's the fact that they're flagrant, the fact that they're showing off, the fact that, you know, it's kind of like flying over a territory with your ships and stuff, like what the U.S. does to China in the South China Sea, where they just sail in there with a whole. It's a show of force, is what it is. It's a show of technology, is what it is. Like hey fuckers, we're coming. You need to just fucking chill, relax, and just let it happen. So whatever their purpose is, yeah, we're gonna be screwed. It's not gonna be good. I don't see it as being good. Um, the fact that there's different kinds of ships also kind of confuses me, because either there's a big ass mothership out there with a huge amount of different kinds of ships, or there's different kinds of aliens. Maybe there's some kind of political thing going on where they're trying to figure out what the fuck to do with us, but they want to make sure that we don't blow ourselves up, or maybe, I don't know. It's fucking weird, isn't it? The fact that, again, they're visiting us, but not for scientific reasons. That is bullshit. They're not studying us or any of that stuff, because you'd hide yourself. And they have the technology and the ability to hide themselves. They're showing themselves off. They are being flagrant. And they're interested on a military basis. That's a little worrying as well. Now, they probably are 50,000 or maybe 100,000 years ahead of us in technology. But the thing is, when I look at their technology, now let's talk about Lazar's stuff. So, yeah, I think their intentions are bad. I don't think that there's anything we could do about it right now. But I think that we're very, very close to reaching their level of technology, and we're going to do it so ridiculously fast. Assuming we created AI, and AI was good and didn't kill us, yeah, it's going to be a huge technological, breakthrough. I mean, we could just ask AI for something. Hey, AI, create me a UFO, and it would design it, build it, and everything. So I think we're going to jump really fast. We're going to have another uh, industrial revolution, the computer revolution, the revolution of the atom. AI, I think Elon is right, just because of what the things are capable of. They're able to create something 1,000 times better. Using a genetic algorithm, just keep running variations until you get the perfect, turbine design or whatever. So I think they're gonna change things completely. Um, so let's talk about their technology. Now that I've told you that I think their intent is bad, I'll tell you about what I think about their technology. So Lazar says, first of all, I don't think that, okay, they may be 50,000 years or whatever ahead of us, but again, I think that we are going to accomplish in the next 1,000 years, or maybe even in the next 100 years, what it took them to achieve in those 50,000. Like, I think that we are the singularity. We are the thing that is like just growing so fucking fast and so furious, that I think that that's what their issue with us is. It's like they didn't take this long to develop, and we're developing a lot faster, which means that eventually we'll leapfrog them in technology. We will eventually, it's our creative mind. Um, when I think of sci-fi right now, I think of like nanotech. You know, the little goes over your whole body and everything, like Tony Stark. They don't got shit like that. Their ships are not like that. They have a certain technology. Maybe they don't have the imaginations we do and the creative mind that we do. Or maybe they lost that through their evolution and they've stagnated. That's another thing that's interesting. Their technology hasn't changed very much. They're using. Let's go into their technology. First of all, I think that their ships are not 3D printed. I think what they're using is a sputtering magnetron in space, um, and using the properties of the vacuum and the cold of space to cold weld materials together into metamaterials. Um, they do that like we'd have a integrated circuit board. Let's say you'd have the shell of an aircraft, right? They're able to put all of that, all those the radars and all that shit and the communications and every life support, everything is integrated into the shell of the ship itself. It's the design of it is I'll give them that. They do fucking have great designing, and the fact that their ships are really badass. But it's not impossible. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's almost like a 3D printer, but they're using a sputtering magnetron in space to cold weld materials, and the shell of the ship has that technology incorporated into it. It's literally uh, maybe a few atoms thick. So if you think of a computer chip with let's say a circuit board with your computer chips and your transistors and your resistors, all that imagine compacted down to the size of you know a sheet of almost a sheet of graphene, like a few atoms thick, everything. And then with our technology, we went from having computers that were the size of a room to holding in your hand something that's exponentially more powerful. I think that again, their ships are super condensed. So in other words, think of our technology, let's say 1,000 years ahead, where we'd have quantum computing and we'd have the ability to do that, but it's not impossible to do. Like I can understand their technology, and it's not nanotech shit. It's not what we envision. It's not even Starship Enterprise type shit. Like there's shit that we have thought of that I don't think they've ever even come up with, and I think that kind of fucking scares the shit out of them. Maybe we're an asset. Maybe they want to reveal themselves to us and have us fucking invent crazy fucking shit for them so they can take over the galaxy. Who knows? You know? Um, but I do know that from looking at their stuff, it can be shot down. I mean, there's stories of them being shot down either by natural means or crashing or whatever, so they're not invulnerable. Um, which again, I mean, if you look at Tony Stark's Iron Man armor, I think they could take a bolt of lightning, right? You'd think that you would factor in for that shit. I think what happens with the lightning is with the heart-shaped field around the ship. Um, Lazard said that when you looked at the ship from underneath, that you could see through it. Like the field was warping space, but in obviously in this direction, right? So that leads me to think that a lightning bolt, which is 1.21 gigawatts, one good thing I got from Back to the Future, a lightning bolt hitting the top of that, I think what it does is funnel because it's the worst fucking place to hit this thing. If you want to bring it down, that's the weak spot. Right there, that little indentation where the heart is. That's where the reactor gets absorbs energy. In other words, it gets reflected back into the reactor, and I think that that's their weak spot. 1.21 gigawatts of directed energy, either a maser, laser, or some kind of other directed energy weapon. Hell, you could drop a fucking power line on this thing, or have some kind of rocket capacitor with 1.21 gigawatt capacitor that just fucking as soon as they make contact just zaps the shit out of that area with 1.21 gigawatts of stored electricity will do the job. It will bring them down. You need an electrical overload for the reactor. I think that what it does is that it channels it right into the reactor. The reactor has a failsafe that shuts off Because remember, you've got that antimatter